Good afternoon to you. Mark Sudduth, HurricaneTrack.com here, coming to you from Parker, Colorado, finishing up a few days of tracking some storms out here in the Great Plains, actually at the house of one of our supporters. I appreciate the use of that, Mr. Matt. We got to talk about 91L and the impacts here. It is June 2nd, 2022. It is hurricane season, so let's get started. Show you what we've got. National Hurricane Center watching this area down here. 80% chance of further development. Recon is on the way down to check this system out. I'll show you a tweet about that in just a moment. This yellow X, no worries at all, not going to do anything, so we won't even spend any more time on it. Looking at the satellite imagery, now this is the water vapor imagery, and this shows us just that, the water vapor in the atmosphere. So you can see moisture. The more white the colors are, the more moisture there is. A simple way to look at it. The darker colors in here, that would be drier air, and we can see a couple of really interesting things. First, strong upper level winds cutting across Florida out of the eastern Gulf to the north of our developing system. So if it moves into that, the shear should keep this from really strengthening very much, kind of lopsided and not your classic looking tropical storm, and it's not going to be a hurricane. I think there's 0% chance of that. You never say never, but the odds favor that this is just a tropical storm. I say just, but it will have impacts, and that's what we're going to talk about today. But you can also see the blossoming of the deep thunderstorms there. Definitely is some of that deep convection, the towering thunderstorms around a developing low-pressure area, the release of heat into the atmosphere. It's all working. The heat engine is trying, but there is some dry air, and there is the strong and very prevalent upper-level winds cutting across the system. It's not the most hostile of environments, but it certainly is not one that favors significant intensification, and we can see that also reflected in the vorticity signature. Let's zoom in on it a little bit here. This is the area that we are looking at. This is 91L right down here, and you can see there's a lot of competing energy overall. The most concentrated area is right here east of the Yucatan, so it's not bundled up. It doesn't look like a solid rotating area just yet, and later in the hurricane season you will see what that looks like. Believe me, and I'll show you a tweet about that in just a moment as well. It is getting better organized, but there's still a lot of competing areas of additional vorticity or energy going on down there, so it's struggling, and that's typical. This is exactly what we would think we would see in June. It's the first part of the hurricane season. This area is climatologically favored in June and July, and even though it is favored, that doesn't necessarily give us intense systems. This is the other area that the National Hurricane Center was watching, or is watching, but it doesn't look like it's going to develop. It's an elongated area of energy, and again, not going to be a problem at all. All right, so here's the tweet I was going to share with you from Mike Adcock, a meteorologist that I follow, and he loves to track the progress of these Air Force and NOAA reconnaissance planes when they happen. This graphic is courtesy, you can see right there, of Tropical Tidbits. Dr. Levi Cowan, as you all know, done a great job over the years of providing these incredible methods to track. Well, what are we looking at? Well, this is the coast of Mississippi here. I mean, talk about being able to zero in, and the plane is getting ready to take off from Keesler Air Force Base at the time of Mr. Adcock's tweet here, and so recon is going to be on it. I guess he says they have departed, so they're on the way. So we will get recon data. What does that mean? Just real quick. Well, they're going to go and they're going to look for a low-level circulation. They're going to possibly drop sondes down into it to get a what we call a vortex message, if there is a closed vortex or rotary circulation in all quadrants. You have to close that off. That's what they're going to do. They have radar. They can sample the environment and just check things out visually with their eyes. They have a flight meteorologist. It's all very fascinating and very good detailed info on site. We call that in situ data. We're going to have that later today, and that'll help the National Hurricane Center possibly upgrade this to a depression by this afternoon. We'll know. So a big thanks to the men and women that do that from the Air Force Reserves and NOAA, and even NASA flies some missions from time to time. It can be dangerous and very laborious. So the water temperature is in the path of the system all through here, not a hindering factor at all. But warm water alone does not give you intense hurricanes. You have to have favorable conditions, mid-level moisture, the reduction of wind shear in the atmosphere, the the wind cannot change speed and direction with height very much. So you got all this warm water down there, yes, including that very prevalent loop current that you can see, but that's not enough. You have to have the other ingredients all come together, and that's probably going to happen, unfortunately, many times later in the season. But in the month of June, it's just very difficult, and that's a good thing. So let's look at the GFS, one of many models. We'll just look at the GFS operational, 850 millibars of the atmosphere. That's 5,000 feet up, roughly. And this matches pretty well what we see on the analysis. Kind of a large mess. The GFS indicates that as well. Choose a color that pops out there. We'll use black. And so this, looks like a pretty large overall bundle of energy spread out over a big area. And it is not consolidated. And you can even see these little, one area here, little competing energy centers there, what we call vorticity maximums. And it's just not all coming together yet, despite the favorable look to the satellite imagery over here. We'll go back to this real quick. That looks pretty ominous, but when you look at it, as we say, under the hood, which is this graphic, it's not as well organized. And the GFS represents that pretty well. So let's move this out into time. This is the initial. This is 6 hours, 12, so this is this evening. And then finally, early tomorrow morning, again, trying to get better organized just to the northwest of Cuba, but you still have these competing areas of vorticity around it. I just know enough from watching this for so many years that that is not a rapidly organizing system. That is for the wind and pressure and surge part, okay? It comes into Florida Saturday afternoon, a large spread out system. It crosses Florida, probably a tropical storm at that point. The name would be Alex, feeling some of the warmer waters of the western Atlantic there and maybe more favorable upper level winds. It could get stronger. Could it become a hurricane out here? Maybe. We'll see. We'll worry about that later. That would be of interest to crews, other shipping interest, you name it, maritime interest. We'll cross that bridge, well, figuratively, if we need to. But what you need to think of here in South Florida, really Central Florida and points south from there, is rain, squally weather, some wind, some coastal impacts. We'll get into that more in just a moment. Now, from a wind perspective, when people think about these things, they think, how strong is it going to get? Is it going to become a hurricane? That anticipation, it's hurricane season. We are HurricaneTrack. Not everything is going to be a hurricane, and not everything has to be a hurricane to cause major problems for you. Okay, so look at the guidance here. This is the intensity guidance, and mostly it's flat. If we just look at it as an envelope here, most of the envelope is pretty flat there. There's one outlier with the H-Wharf. It's typically, especially when we don't have a verified low-level vorticity center or a vortex, a center of circulation. Until that forms, the intensity guidance is going to be pretty wishy-washy, and especially the H-Wharf. The H-Wharf does really well. H-Wharf, by the way, Hurricane Weather Research Forecast Model, does really well once you have a developed cyclone that the model can latch onto and then sort of interpret going forward from there. Generally, though, intensity guidance for the wind, pretty flat, maybe a weak tropical storm if you're looking at it from a wind perspective. But what I want to do is say, all right, what are the other impacts? It's not just the wind. Surge, there could be some storm surge, yes. You blow the water towards the shore, 30, 40, 50 miles per hour, you're going to get storm surge, especially in some of the favored areas of southwest Florida. High waves, rough conditions. It's going to, this is the weekend coming up. And this system's going to come through. A lot of people trying to go down to Florida. They're already in Florida, wanting to enjoy some time out there, on the water, whatever, the Keys, the beaches, Collier County over to the east side, Monroe County. I'm sorry, that's on the west side, but you get what I'm saying. South Florida, I'm trying to think of everything I want to tell you here. South Florida as a whole, a lot of people are going to be down there, very crowded, and this system coming through, there will be some significant rain, squally conditions, maybe the threat of tornadoes. You got to look at the whole picture. But I think the biggest impact is going to be this one right here, inland flooding or just general rainfall, freshwater flooding, storm surge, wind, maybe a few tornadoes and waterspouts to be concerned about. But the rainfall from this and the impact to people traveling in Florida is going to be a real headache. It's coming. That's what you need to focus on. The radar, this is a great radar site from Mark Nissenbaum at Florida State University. This is indirectly related to 91L. I'll show this more tomorrow as it gets closer, and we're going to use this, and it actually does 200 frames, so it'll be really fascinating to watch the evolution. But you can already see there's some preceding moisture and bands of rain already coming in, indirectly related to the circulation. It's just the large area of disturbed weather down here and the pressure falls that are starting to happen. A little bit of a squall line coming through the Keys earlier. That's just a preview of what's coming. So you folks down here in South Florida in particular, get ready. A lot of heavy rain. Again, the squally conditions, you're going to get those palm fronds knocking off. Those are big. Those will mess up your car if you're not careful. And then just the traffic down there. You must take this seriously from a rain perspective. I know you think, oh, come on, man, it's just rain. Well, when you get a lot of rain and it's blowing around, you got an area of 6 to 8 million people down there. Good luck with that if you don't take it seriously. Believe me, it can be a real big problem, especially if you're not used to it. So if you're traveling down there, yes, it's going to be kind of a miserable weekend, but please take it easy on those highways. We need you alive, all right? There's no reason for me to do this if you're not around. So, in the continuing bad news department, it is what it is. The forecast update today from Colorado State University, which, by the way, I'm real close to that here in Parker. I'm in Colorado. But anyhow, Dr. Klotzbach and his team really lowering the boom here on, what's going to happen. It's an attention-getting update. 20 named storms, 10 hurricanes, 5 of those hurricanes becoming major hurricanes. You can see the graphic here. The projected ACE score, this is really important to me, of 180. That is pretty high. The average is 123. So look at that score as if you looked at a basketball team like in the NBA, and you say they normally score 123 points a game, but this game we are projecting that they score 180. I know that's kind of a weird metaphor because has anybody ever scored 180 points? But that's the idea. It would be not unprecedented because we've had ace seasons well into the 200s, but I'm just saying this is well above normal. 20 name storms, the odds that we go above the list, beyond the list of 21 names is certainly there. 10 hurricanes, that's a lot. And then half of them, 5 becoming major hurricanes, category 3 or higher. That is very alarming. It really is. We got to really pay attention this year and be ready. It's we got a lot going on with the economy and world other issues, etc. And we can't lose sight of the fact nature doesn't care about our problems. Clearly, I mean, look at the last few years, and I snicker a little bit because what else are you going to do? You have to dig in and embrace the science here. This is giving us the opportunity to be ready. So this is the April 7th was 19. June 2nd, he's upped it to 20. 10 hurricanes over 9, 5 over 4 from April. The data suggesting very warm sea surface temperatures are already in place, anomalously so. The La Nina is here. The overall atmospheric patterns are as such that we could see a very, very busy season. In fact, what we call hyperactive. So I'll be around doing what I do probably every day. We're going to have to do a discussion, it looks like. Don't forget, in the mornings, and we'll go ahead and get ready to exit here, I do produce a short sort of, it's called What's Up in the Tropics, and it's just a real quick look at what I'm thinking, what I'm looking at, what the Hurricane Center is looking at. Maybe in July, and after we get done with what will probably be Alex, we do get a period of time where things calm down, and I can do the morning update, and we won't have to do the hurricane outlook and discussion. That would be nice. Not that I want to be lazy, but I think it's going to be a really busy season, and you might be seeing me twice a day for the next 182 days or whatever it is that we have left in the season. All right, so we're on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube. I put the updates on Spotify in the mornings. Hopefully they're making it, and through Anchor. And I'm also posting them on TikTok for the younger crowd, and trying to work in the Instagram as well. A lot going on. We're working on it. We, of course, are supported through Patreon, patreon.com/HurricaneTrack. If you want to get involved and help us out and become a part of our great community, we'd love to have your support. and you can see what we do behind the scenes. It's pretty awesome. So again, in summary, South Florida, get ready. A lot of heavy rain, squally conditions, miserable weekend, not the ideal time to travel down there, but, you know, who's going to stop you, right? Just please be careful. Take it slow on the interstates and any roads for that matter. Hydroplaning is a big problem. I've driven through enough of it, I can tell you from experience. So be careful out there. We need you back. All right? Have a great rest of your Thursday. I'm flying home from Colorado tonight. I'll be back in my office tomorrow, and we'll do it all over again at that point. All right? I am Mark Sudduth for Hurricane Track. I'll talk to you again tomorrow.